NXT 2016. This is
interviews, music reviews, opinions, and more.
This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We are One Audio here today, and episode 288 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. We got a really kick-ass episode for you today, as I try to every single week right here on The Hodder Show. I'm sitting down with my man, Jon Cayen. Of course, a badass pro wrestler and is one half of the tag team Cayen Kable, also known as Fear the Beard. And we're actually doing a really fun talk today because we're just keeping it really fun and casual. And this is actually a completely out of character interview for Jon. Of course, Jon has been on my show before with his tag team partner, Alexander Kable, for a chat that ended in a rather not great situation for ya boy, because I did piss off the very deadly tag team of Cayen Kable. But this time around, it's a lot more chill. Of course, Jon hasn't been able to wrestle for over a year now, so of course we talk about that, kind of what he's been doing to keep himself sane, and just about kind of the pro wrestling landscape in general, a little bit how his life as a pro wrestler has gone over the last couple of years since he's been training, a little bit about him getting started late into the business of professional wrestling. So it's a really, really fun chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did recording it with him. And Jon, thank you so very much again, my man, for coming on the show. It is always a pleasure. Of course, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who supported last week's episode of the show. My chat with my man, Mr. Evangelo Valiotis from Judgment. Always a blast having Evan, Jon. So Evans, thank you so very much, my man, for coming on the show. We had some really great deep talk on that one about failure and things of that nature. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure to go back and check that episode out now. Of course, before we jump into the episode here today with Jon Cayen, Jon Cayen has a fantastic beard, and he will tell you that if you need some great beard care, you need to check out my friends over at Mean Beard. If you have a beard and maybe you get a little bit of itch, maybe you're sitting here doing this, you're itching all the time, and you're like, oh man, I would love to grow my beard out more, but it's so itchy, I get beard dandruff, it's just all over the place, I just can't deal with it, I gotta shave it. Check out meanbeardco.com right now to check out the meanest beard care products in the entire world. They got some oils with a bunch of different scents. Me personally, I'm a big fan of the gun smoke. That will help nourish your beard and the skin underneath, getting rid of the itch and the beard dandruff and things of that nature, as well as they have the balm, which will help to protect your beard, as well as help keep things kind of a little cleaner, help with getting some of those kind of straggly hairs a little more under control. And then, of course, they have what I personally think is the creme de la creme of beard care products, the Mean Whip. Now, let me tell you, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You get some nourishment for your beard as well as the skin underneath your beard. You get some great hold, and it's a little different from the balm. Like the Mean Whip, it's a lot lighter. It's almost like a beard butter, but it's not like buttery. It's like a really nice, soft cream type thing. And man, I'm telling you, you put that in your beard, it is the best. I personally love mixing the oil and the Mean Whip. I'll mix them together, do a little this kind of action. Then I'll put it all over the beard, and it feels fantastic. It is seriously the best stuff in the world. It's the best beard product I have ever used, and I am so grateful that Mean Beard is sponsoring this podcast, because I'm a Mean Beard guy, man. I have been for a few years now. So big shout outs to Mean Beard and the entire Mean Beard community. Check them out right now on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Mean Beard, MEAN Beard. Check them out right now, as well as go ahead and join the Facebook community, the Mean Beard community, for some great, positivity. Man, that community is all about positivity and just, living that Mean Beard lifestyle, standing with purpose, being just positive to everyone you come across. That real positive mental attitude is very much in form on the Mean Beard community. And of course, if you would like to check out the Mean Beard product, you can do so, meanbeardco.com, and use my code at checkout, MB15TJH. That's MB15TJH, all uppercase letters. Check it out right now and find out just how fantastic the Mean Beard product is. And always remember, guys, that it's not just the beard, it's the attitude. And with that all out of the way, we're ready to jump into my chat with Jon Cayen from Cayen Kable and Fear the Beard, badass pro wrestler. Let's get into it. It's time to fear the beard, folks. Got my man, Mr. Jon Cayen in the house. John, what's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, just hanging out downtown Toronto. I just moved again in this pandemic, so getting settled into the new home and the new office, and saw your call out that you were looking to do some interviews. So decided to come back and do what would now be my third interview with you. So
The third, yes, of course, the famous first interview that was so great and that I had so much fun doing, and then, of course, mysteriously was destroyed.
Good old technical issues.
Dude,
but
I will never. I mean, I already told you this. Like, I will never. Just the sheer terror and panic that overtook me when I looked and I'm like, where is the exported file? And just, I still like that. I never delete anything off that computer. I still look for it once in a while. I'm like, maybe it's in a file hidden somewhere. Cause I would upload it. If I found it, I'd be like, yo,
why not?
It'd be great. But yeah, no, the guys, of course, Cayen Kable were nice enough to do another appearance on the Hardy Show fully, I guess we'll say this now that we're talking with the man behind Jon Cayen is not just, the yes, John
out of character a little.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to be like, we're non-kayfabe. So
I mean, as anyone who listened to the first one will realize and I was explaining to a friend of mine today, there's not much difference between the two really. It's as many wrestlers are known to say, you take yourself and you just turn it up to 11. I just took kind of certain bits and parts of my personality and, amplified those and just kind of hide some of the other ones. And that's what people see in the ring. So
yeah, be ready to cut promos on people and stuff. And,
pretty much.
I still love, man. Like I still bring it up all the time. If I'm talking to anyone about the whole, when I'm we were in the middle of that podcast and I asked you guys what does the fear of the beard mean? We were like, do you speak English? I will never forget when a couple of my buddies messaged me and they're like, dude, like that guy was so disrespectful. And I was like, yeah, he's a real jerk. Like still playing it, cause I'm like, that's like, they don't understand it. Like they weren't really wrestling fans. They were just like, why would you just keep doing that interview? I would have kicked him off. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a professional.
You got to do the job, And
yeah.
No, it was one of those moments that I even remember when it happened. It just kind of, sometimes things just line up, and there was just one of those. And being completely honest, breaking the third wall here, it was. Sometimes you just don't know what to say. And it was just like, well, what does fear the beard mean? And it was one of those things that just kind of came out one day between Cable and I. And it was just to be fully transparent. It was never supposed to be our tag team name.
Yeah.
It was just supposed to be a saying, kind of, a slogan, if you will. And one day a promoter threw that on the poster instead of Cayen and Cable. And we didn't think anything of it. We were like, sure. And then another promotion did it. And then another promotion did it. And it just kind of happened. So we were like, okay, why not?
I guess we'll fear the beard now. All right, cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, just sometimes things just happen and you kind of go with it and hope it works. And up until the world shut down a year ago, it was working great. So we stuck with it.
Definitely so, man. Well, and that's why it's kind of cool getting to talk with you in this kind of a setting where we're not worried about, being in character and that stuff. And because we always have good chats, but what kind of have you been up to the last, you mentioned you moved, obviously, so you've been doing that, but what have you kind of been doing? And what was the last little bit like before the pandemic? Cause I mean, like, obviously I keep up with what you guys are doing. We talk once in a while, but like, what was kind of like the last, like, what was your last match you did? What was kind of that whole time leading up to the shutdown?
I'll be entirely honest. I don't even remember what my last match was. Like the specifics of it. I remember that last period. And I mean, I keep an Excel spreadsheet with all of my matches, where they were, the date, what the finish was, etc. So I have that information. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But leading into the pandemic, the last time we spoke, we talked about Cable and I. We were the inaugural BCW champions in Beauharnois, Quebec. We lost those titles in the February show due to some shenanigans.
That's all we'll say.
Yep. And we were supposed to have a triple threat rematch in March to win back our titles. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So those guys are now going around bragging that they've been champs for 13 months and they've never had a single title defense. So that's more or less where we've kind of been at. We had been looking forward to wrestling at a couple different promotions around. There was a commercial that we did going back a while now for Seaway Valley Wrestling, which we were getting ready to go back there. And then just kind of trying to diversify ourselves a little bit and move a little bit further outside of where we were currently wrestling. And then the world shut down. So kind of looking forward to things opening back up again. From everything that I'm here, hopefully by the end of the summer, leading into the fall, there might be, with some physical distancing in place and
stuff open up and
some smaller crowds and stuff like that, we might start to see some matches. So fingers crossed.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to. That's one thing for sure that I've said this a few times the last few episodes of the show, but like going to shows, both music and then also wrestling, I'm like, that's something where I'm like, I really want to, especially now that I don't work weekends anymore. It's like, I definitely want to make double my efforts to be like, hey, there's a show going on. If it's realistic that I can get there and logistically speaking, I can make it happen. I'm like, hey, I want to see all the wrestling I can. I want to go to all the shows I can. Like, it's just, and that's the one thing with this pandemic that some people said that's been good is like, there's been this break for some people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I would imagine being someone who, gets tossed onto the ground and hit in the head with barbed wire bats and stuff. It's like
I try to be the one doing the hitting with the barbed wire bat, but I mean, unfortunately, that doesn't always end up in my favor. No, I'm definitely enjoying the fact that I've gotten to sleep in on weekends and let my body rest a little bit. I've saved a lot of money on gas and oil changes on my car.
Sure, I can imagine, because you were literally driving from Toronto to Quebec back to Toronto some weekend.
Yeah. Right? I was living in Montreal at the time and seeing someone who lived in the Toronto area and wrestling between Toronto and regularly just a little east of Montreal and up to Ottawa. So kind of wrestling all along the 401 and all that area. So between my job and wrestling and training, etc.
Yeah.
In 3 years, I put 170,000 kilometers on my car. So
holy cow! I thought I put a lot on my car with my hour commutes. Nah.
Well, I mean, I worked at the time. I was doing outside sales, so I would drive around a lot to visit customers. So I mean, it was, I'd say, probably including training, it was probably about a 50-50 split over those 3 years. How much mileage was for work and how much was for wrestling. So it kept me busy.
Kind of worked out though, right? If you're going to an area for your, the day job, it's like, hey, while I'm here.
I definitely tried to take advantage of that. Yeah. It's, if I knew I had to wrestle in Toronto, my company's head office is in Toronto, which is part of the reason that I moved down here. And so, I'd try and make arrangements of like, hey, I have to come into the office every couple of weeks. Any way we can make it line up with when I'm wrestling in Toronto. So it worked out sometimes. I mean, it didn't always, but at least it meant that I didn't have to drive home from Montreal on a Sunday, or from Toronto to Montreal on a Sunday night to be ready to go back on the road Monday morning. So
Yeah, you could just stay in Toronto and it wouldn't be a
exactly
huge deal.
So
One thing I want to ask you real quick before we just keep going on this topic, because I don't know if I've asked you this, but with your job, like you had just mentioned, hey, is there any way we can line this up for when I'm wrestling? Have you ever is that like a real conversation you've had with them where you were like, hey, I'm wrestling this weekend. Can we kind of, and how do they react to that?
They found out my initial supervisor knew. I've known him for 15 years. I've worked for the company for 10. So, and, he was friends with my father, and that's kind of how I got into the industry. So I was very transparent with him as far as all of the upper management and so on and so forth. They found out when I came into work one day with a black eye. So they were like, what happened to you? And I was like, well, and I kind of
on the weekends.
Yeah. And so that was an interesting conversation. A few of them have seen my barbed wire baseball bat, and they think I'm crazy. Awesome. Only one of them has come out to see me wrestle so far. A few of them were supposed to in like March or April. I was working towards a bit of a story here in Toronto and was setting up towards a bigger hardcore match that unfortunately never happened. So they were going to come out and see that. But yeah, they're kind of mesmerized by it and not quite understanding what it is. They hear some of the crazy stories about thumbtacks or barbed wire or the staple gun, and I'm looking over at the various toys.
You're looking at your So
like, what else do I have?
Yeah, whatever's in the bag of tricks for.
Pretty much. I try to change it up every once in a while and keep things interesting for myself and the fans. So.
Definitely. So whatever you can use to inflict violence, right?
More or less.
That's awesome though. I was curious about that because I'm just like, it would be such a trip where like I like very recently my immediate supervisor found out I do a podcast.
Okay.
And so like she's like been like kind of asking me about it. Like what? Like what? Like kind of not on the same level because it's obviously
but it's still podcasting and wrestling is still something that a lot of people don't really understand. It's
for sure.
So it definitely has that correlation between what do you mean? What's a podcast? Like, why do you do that?
Exactly. So like it's technically a form of entertainment. And it's like, so like, cause she said to me, because she jokes, she's like, so like, you're kind of an entertainer, I guess. I'm like, sure. She's like, well, that makes sense. Like I was like, okay, cool. That right on. And then she's like, hey, I'm gonna check it out. What should I? I'm like, okay, cool. Here's some stuff. But so it's cool that you kind of had that same thing where maybe once things open back up, you can be like, hey, here's some. I'm wrestling here. Let's do this. And it's so cool to me because like, because I've been such a fan my whole life, and like I have such a respect for the art form of professional wrestling, where it's like when I started to become buddies with wrestlers. That was when I was like, it got to be next level for me, where I was really like, I already had a crazy amount of respect for it, but then now it's like even more for me.
But
where
it's you see it from a different perspective.
Yeah,
it's you're as much as you still remain a fan, and as much as even as fans, we all know. Or, most fans believe they know at least the way things work behind the scenes. It's never the same anywhere. I've worked for 15 to 20 different promotions, and it's never the same. So, certain promoters are much more involved in what they want out of performers. Certain ones are less. Some places are focused on long-term storytelling. Some realize that they're only going to have people that tune in for specific episodes. And I can't remember. I know I heard it from Kevin Smith, who's also a podcaster, movie director, etc. And he mentions it regularly, but it's from someone else, and I can't remember who said it originally. And it's, I kind of take the same approach with wrestling as I'm sure you do with the podcasting. It's every podcast is someone's first podcast.
Yeah. 100%.
So you can't assume that everybody has watched one of your podcasts or listened to one of your podcasts in the past, just like I can't assume that somebody knows who I am as a wrestler.
Yeah.
So you kind of just take it that one match at a time, I guess, one show at a time, and go from there, really. But it is humbling to bring it back, a little bit. It is humbling to have those people, kind of be like, wait, what is it that you do? And just kind of take an interest in it, even if they're not fans, to just kind of pull back the curtain and reveal, something that happens all over the place around them that they're just not aware of.
And that, in my experience, people who they may not necessarily be into it, or they just don't know it exists is the better word for it. And then they experience it and they're like, this is amazing. Like, this is incredible. Like the last Chinlock show you guys did at the Battle of the Brewery there.
Yeah.
There was a friend of mine brought a friend of his who never really saw wrestling. He knew, oh yeah, wrestling, that guy, John Cena. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he wasn't expecting, like, he didn't know what to expect. And I said to him, look, like, suspend your disbelief, watch it as entertainment, pretend you're watching a movie, enjoy it like that. And he was like, okay, I will. Like, don't overthink it, because you're hanging out with a bunch of fans who like to, some of my buddies are very like, oh, well, that spot there, I'm like, you don't, like, stop, like, just, and I love them, but I'm like, and I used to be similar, but now I'm just like I said, look, I've been a wrestling fan my entire life, and I'll be watching, like when I'm watching you guys that night, I'm like, I see you guys as like my buddies, but at the same time, I'm also like, okay, well, that's Cayen. That's not John. That's Cayen.
Yeah.
So it's like, I could still, well, I mean, I still never booed you guys because you're my favorite. But yeah, I'm just like, or like, I think one of the best examples of it is, I don't remember what show it was, but was shouts to CJ Felony, of course, Justin Cusio there of Chinlock. I had met Justin, like, he's a sweetheart of a guy, but CJ Felony is just scum. I'm not afraid to say that. But when he there was something happened, like he basically like lied to everyone and was like, oh, I'm gonna retire or whatever.
Yep.
And I was like, there's no way.
That was at the brewery show.
Yeah. And I was like, there's no way. And my one buddy was like, oh, dude, no, like, it makes sense. Like, it makes sense. I'm like, nope, I don't trust him. He's full of it. I don't trust him. And then he came out, and I'm like, no, I knew it. Boo. I'm like standing behind the merch table with Jason, and he's just looking at me, and I'm like, boo, you suck. And like, I'm like the loudest person there, and he's just like, I love that you can just disconnect from it.
Yeah.
He's like, it makes it more enjoyable for those around you when you're not sitting there like, huh, well, I would have done it this way. It's like, then get in the ring, bro. Like, that's,
No, and that's exactly it. And I mean, I watched for years, and like same thing to your point that you made earlier about somebody being like, oh, he messed that up. My first indie show that I ever went to, going back 15, 16 years now.
Yeah.
And I went in and watched the show, and there was I can't remember who the tag team was, but they went for like a springboard type spot to the outside, and the guy missed the ropes and just tumbled right to the outside, and the crowd starts a you effed up chant, and we just happened by chance to be sitting next to somebody, I can't remember the exact details, but somebody who knew the tag team, and he's just like, no, he's like, that was totally planned. And I'm like, nah, it was clear he messed it up. And he's like, no, he uses that spot regularly. Like, he uses it all the time, and it's,
you think,
exactly. So it's, from then on, then, as I started training, you kind of start to see certain things that, I won't reveal what it is, but, people who have seen my wrestling matches and watched me wrestle everywhere, like my fiance who's seen me a lot, or, some of Cable's family members, et cetera. They see certain things and they've pointed it out to me. They're like, oh, I know when I see XYZ in a match that you're going through a table, or you're taking a crazy, like a superplex, or you're taking some, and I'm like, well, how do you know? And they're like, well, because of this. And I'm like, okay, so it's caused me to change things as well, because I don't want the fans to be able to click into that. So there's, and I have certain spots where I went a year and a half where, and the only reason that still doesn't stick, I wanted to keep it, so I don't mind revealing it now. I had a thing going for a year and a half where I never successfully hit a moonsault. Every time I hit a moonsault, I always told every time I planned a match with someone, I'm like, as soon as you see me go for the moonsault, roll out of the way. And it was an inside thing for me, and it made some of my friends that were in the crowd chuckle, because I'd go for it every time I'd miss it. And it, as a heel, it gave something for people to laugh or boo.
Oh, what a goof, he missed it. Yeah.
Oh, he messed up, and it's like, yeah, I always mess it up. Like, I never hit it.
That's the point. Yeah.
And then one day, the opponent was lying on the floor, and the way the lights were positioned, he didn't see that I was going for the moonsault. So I start coming over, and then as soon as I do that, for those who aren't wrestling fans, the moonsault is basically a backflip off the top rope. So as I'm upside down, and then my vision clears and I see the ring, I'm like, he's still there. I'm like, oh no. So I had to change the way I landed, because if I'm landing without someone there, I'm landing
land differently.
You want to absorb it more yourself. So I'm like, oh no. And I had to stretch out. It ended up landing with my elbow in his stomach, and it looked horrible, but it was one of those things. Now I've hit it, I can't keep, and I'll still miss it from time to time for fans who enjoy seeing that. But it's no longer one of those, I make a point of missing it every time now, because that spot's been brought out. So, like you said, you never know what's really happening as much as you think you know it.
Yeah. And that was a thing for me that made me such a fan of, more of the independent wrestling, because for me, it was like, I would watch TV wrestling, whatever it is. And just, you'd start to pick up things like that. Like, okay, then he's going to do this, and then he's going to do this, and that's, and they say, oh, big, yeah. So it's just, after a while, I'm like, okay, if I'm seeing the same people every week, all the time, they're doing the same things, it's just, for me, it got not boring isn't the right word, but I'm just like, I know what's going to happen. I know how this person's going to do something. I know that. And that's why I do love to be surprised, and I still will watch wrestling, and I'll shut my brain off and just enjoy it for what it is. But that's when it starts taking me out of it, when I'm like, okay, so this person did this, and then this person did the same thing in the next match. I'm just like, what? Just it's little things like that I'm just like, oh, damn, okay, but that's why, I go and see, an independent wrestling show, and I'm like, I'm watching, one match, I'm watching, CJ Felony screw over Sam Hudson out of a title. And I'm just like, I genuinely didn't know what was going to happen for a minute there. Cause I was like, yo, oh my gosh, he's, could he do this? Could he actually do this? And I'm standing there with Jason, I'm all excited. He's just like, dude, you are so giddy. I love it. I'm just I was so excited. I mean, same for my friends, obviously. Yeah. But, and then, there was a lot of great matches. That was the last show, so that's why I'm thinking of it. But and then,
and I mean that's when the storytelling is done right, where even someone like yourself who knows the people involved, and you still get caught up into the story. And even to that story with CJ, where he said that he was retiring and all of that, I was backstage at that show.
Yeah,
even I got swerved by it.
That's awesome.
I had my suspicions about it, and I was like, I had the same mentality. I was like, nah, there's no way.
He's full of it. But still, and
then as we're getting closer, I'm backstage, and he's just walking around in his street clothes, the same stuff that he had gone out and said that he was retired in. And, I'm like, well, certainly, if anything was going to happen, we're heading into I think it was the semi-main and I'm like, we're heading into the second last match. And after that, it was, a big match that, well, he's clearly not going to be involved in that. And it was just, well, he's not dressed, I guess, he really is retired. Wow. And then I just went back to paying attention to the match, and then all of a sudden, it's next there's CJ, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, he got me, and
that's awesome though. That's
so it's, it's the insult for years, at least that I heard, was, it's a soap opera for men. And it absolutely is. It's no different than spending 2 hours, or as I'm probably going to do later tonight, 4 hours watching a superhero movie, or
you're gonna watch that Snyder Cut.
I am,
yeah, okay.
Or watching a 3-hour wrestling show. It's you just kind of get sucked into the story, and if it's done right, it takes you on some ups and some downs, and you have some comedic moments, and you have some scarier moments, and you have some moments where you're just blown away by the athleticism. And it's, I think with what people are used to seeing on TV, to the point you were making, is they're used to seeing the same thing regularly.
Yeah.
So they don't realize that if you go to an independent wrestling show, you're going to get something a little different. And that goes from every different fed or company that you could go and visit. Everyone does things slightly differently. I've been to shows where there's just, it's completely PG. They don't want you swearing or making any sort of, sexual innuendo whatsoever. Then I've been to other shows where they're just like, go nuts.
Yeah.
And it really depends on the crowd, the promoter, and, the city. Everybody kind of wants something different. It's the same as concerts. You go see a band. And even to the point that we were making earlier about wanting to change things up. There are certain bands that I've seen 7 or 8 times live. And as much as the bulk of what they present to you is the same, every once in a while, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe they're playing this. Yeah. Or, oh my God, they played this completely differently than how they've ever played it. And, I think that's important every once in a while. Change it up.
Definitely. Like, I mean, the third time I saw Alice in Chains, like, I was expecting things to go a certain way, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna close with this, they're gonna open with this, blah blah blah. And they opened with a different song than I thought they would have. They closed with a different song than I thought they would have. Well, kind of. Of course, they played Rooster fully last 100%, but like halfway through the set, they all just kind of look at each other, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then they started playing one of the most obscure Alice in Chains songs just for a second. And I screamed at the top of my lungs because I was like, what? And like, it was just like a teaser. I guess they wanted to see the reaction. And I was the only one who screamed because no one else knew it. And they were kind of like, okay. And then they played something else. And I was like, yo, like, that was the coolest moment. Just that little thing. Right. And it's, it's the same with wrestling. If you're like, you're watching something and just, someone does something, it's like, whoa, it was like to use a WWE example, like when Jon Cena randomly started doing the springboard stunner. It's like, what? Like, or the sunset flip thing or whatever. It's like, wait, what? Like, it's just, sometimes you got to do things like that.
And
throw people off.
He's someone that even jokes about the fact that, he does the same things over and over again. Like, I think it was on Stone Cold's podcast
5
where
he's Doom.
Yeah. And he's just like, he's like, I do the shoulder tackle, the big shoulder tackle, the fireman's carry, the whirly bird special, and the 5-knuckle shuffle. He's like, that's it. And he's like, occasionally I'll take one of those moves out and put in another one so that it just stays 5 moves of Doom. Yeah. And it's,
but it's great. Like, it's John Cena. Like, what's that,
That's what his character is supposed to be, in essence, like, as much as he's himself very much out there, he's supposed to cater very much to the children, and they enjoy when they see that shoulder tackle come and that second shoulder tackle, and they're just like, oh, and that's very important. Everybody's got it. Shawn Michaels would start stomping in the corner, and
what was going to happen.
When Jake got somebody in a front face lock and he started twirling that finger, you knew what was coming next.
Down he goes.
It's, everybody does it, and, but John Cena just happens to be, 5-6 moves in a row. You know, it's no different than The Rock hits the spine buster and he pops back up and everyone knows here comes the people's elbow. So
Hulk Hogan with the big the
big
punches,
boot.
what's going to happen, the big boot and the leg drop.
Start shaking that finger and you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So it's, it's entertainment at the end of the day, and it's not for everyone, but I've brought friends of mine who had never seen me wrestle before, had no interest in wrestling, and they were just like, yeah, you know what? I'm free that Saturday or Sunday, whatever it was. And they came out to wrestle, and like 2 matches into the show, they turned to the other people that were there and they're like, wait, I'm allowed to yell at the wrestlers? And they're like, yeah, like yell whatever you want. And they're just like, you suck. And the guy turns around and yells something back to them, and they're like, oh. And it's, wrestling is one of the, well, they really say it's the only one, but I'm sure there's others in some ways. But wrestling is the only form of entertainment where you can change the product.
Yeah, genuinely, yeah.
Maybe not if you're going to watch WWE television because they've got commercial breaks that they need to deal with. But if you go to an indie wrestling show and you're heckling wrestlers or, the good wrestlers, and not that they're good necessarily talent-wise, they don't have to be more skilled in the ring, but they're just more in the moment. They're more seasoned, and they're able to pay attention.
Too. Yeah.
I've had matches where, I thought the match was going to go one way, and then you get out there and the crowd isn't having it, and you go a different direction, and you've seen it. Cable tends to do it more than I do, but all of a sudden Cable will chop someone and the crowd goes crazy, and then it's just like, oh, okay, throw a couple more chops in there, So it's fun in that sense if the person is able to go back to what you said, and many people have said, suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
And just get lost in it the same way you would a TV show or a movie. And, you should be entertained if the people do their job right.
Yeah, man. And one thing I wanted to make sure I mention with you specifically, because one of the coolest things that I've told you this probably 5 or 6 times already, but one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in wrestling ever, as far as just a storytelling moment, but like just a moment that.
Oh, I think I know where you're going now.
Yeah, for me was just, it was so. I had a job at the time. I was supposed to be doing something else. I shouldn't say a job. Like I was going to do something else, but I just got so lost in it. I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. And it was of course, Cayen Kable through the beard going up against Madman Taylor of Freak Nation. And it was a 2-on-1 handicap match. Now, of course, if Madman maybe didn't jump you guys at the beginning of the match, things might have gone differently, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, that chair shot to the back that I wasn't expecting wasn't very pleasant.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I felt it, but that's, but man, during that match, those of you, if you weren't there, let me tell you, there was a moment. So the Battle of the Brewery was inside Spearhead Brewery, and they had kegs stacked as like kind of like the entranceway to come out. And these 3 guys, Cayen and Kable, are beating that Madman Taylor out near these. And Kable decides, it was Kable. Yeah. I remember it right. Kable decides he's going to climb up on these, and he's going to jump down upon Madman Taylor and deliver a double axe handle, thus knocking him unconscious, rendering the match over. Let's just be real. That's what would have happened.
Realistically, I mean, he had climbed, it was, I want to say 4, but it might have been 3.
I think it was 3 because that 4th one was really like wobbly. And he was like, I don't know.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
It was like, dude, just do 3. Don't do 4. I'm pretty sure I saw like Jan talking to him like, dude, just do 3. Don't do 4. Because he was like, I'll do 3. I'll do 4. Like, and when he came off the top of, somehow, I don't know how it happened, but Madman was able to get away. And unfortunately, Jon took the brunt of that hit. And, he was out.
Well, there's actually the one part that, because of the angle, I don't think you saw. So that happens. Kable and Madman start fighting, and I can't remember the exact details because of what's just about to happen. I tried to use one of the kegs to hit Madman.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right.
That backfires, and he hit me in the head with a
Oof.
keg, and that's what put me out finally.
Okay, that's
And
what
then-
did it. Because
Yeah.
the double axe handle wouldn't be enough to put out Jon Cayen. Let's be serious.
No, I mean it had me staggered. I mean, Cable's pretty good with that thing, but he finally finished me off with the keg, and then the rest that you were going into.
So as the match progressed, Madman got the better of Cable, and he had him in the ring. And during this whole time, I'm standing. So the ring's here, the one corner's here, and I'm over here, and I'm supposed to be taping this because I was like, hey, I'll try and like record your guys' match for you. And I'm supposed to be. I enjoyed the match too much. I kept missing stuff, but while this is happening, Cayen he slowly starts moving, very slowly. And he looks up and he sees what's happening in the ring. And he very slowly, with everything he has left, starts crawling towards the ring to try and help his brother in arms, Cable. And unfortunately, he just barely didn't make it to the ring in time in order for, Madman did drive Cable through a table, thus ending the match. But as a fan, that was that moment of just watching you just with everything, just the crawl, you shaking, just looking up, like that was such a heavy thing. And that was it was genuinely one of the coolest things I've ever seen in wrestling. I was like, man, if that was a televised match, that would have been talked about for.
It was a lot of fun. That show in particular. I have another one of my favorite moments actually happened in the Battle Royal that same day.
Yes.
We had just wrestled the hardcore match as you just mentioned. And, I took the keg to the head and got knocked out, all of that, used the last of my energy. And then we're supposed to come out and do a rumble. For those of your fans who aren't wrestling fans, most people know a Royal Rumble, but it's where people come in, usually every minute to 2 minutes, depending. And you get eliminated by being thrown over the top rope and both your feet touch the ground. Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to go out there. There's like 6 or 7 people already in the ring. We've already both gotten beaten up. Cable went through a table. I got hit in the head with a keg, amongst many other things. So I come out and it's just see what's going on in the ring. And I'm like, nope. And I just stop, sit down on the kegs that are part of this entrance and just proceed to start drinking a beer. 2 or 3 people later, our music hits again and Cable comes out with the exact same idea. So we proceed to just sit on these kegs for like 4 or 5 minutes during this match, having a beer. Finally decide to go back and decide to go and get involved in the ring. And right as we're going to climb into the ring, a bunch of chaos happens in front of us. So we're like, nope. And we just proceed to hang out outside the ring for like another 2 minutes before finally getting in. And I mean, it kept us in the ring a lot longer than I think we would have, because we were both just beat up from that match with Madman Taylor. And I think within 2 minutes of actually getting into the ring, we got eliminated. So him and I don't seem to do very well when the two of us are in a rumble together. We've both been successful separately, but when we're both in a rumble,
for whatever reason,
the night we met.
Specialist. Yes, I was just about to say that.
We were both in the rumble for a grand total of 2 minutes and got eliminated together. So
I remember being so excited because I had never heard you guys. I didn't know you guys. I think I remember Sam saying, "Oh, you'll like these one guys. They got the beards and stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I think you came out first.
No, Cable came out.
Came out first because I remember
we were back to back entrances.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
because he came out and I was like, "Oh, badass! Like that's cool." Like he jumps in and starts doing his thing, and then you came out, and I'm like, "Oh, cool!" Like I'm looking and I'm like, "Wait a minute, why is this guy all wet?"
It's because I had just gotten thrown into Lake Ontario in my last match.
And that, folks, is storytelling. That's for the people who were there.
It was a small throwaway. It was, I tend to wet my hair a lot before I go out. And I was just like, I wet my hair. Something happened. The music had gotten delayed or something. And the entrances were being slowed up a little bit. And I'm like, oh man, my hair's drying already. Cause it was really hot back there.
Yeah.
And so I poured more water on and I'm joking around with the people who run Chinlock. And I'm just like, hey, wouldn't it be funny? Remember how the last time any of the fans saw me, I got thrown into Lake Ontario? Wouldn't it be funny if I just came back out and I was soaked from head to toe and we all just start giggling and they're just like, yeah. And they just walk away and I'm like, I'm doing it. Just why not? And there was 2 or 3 people that I know of that saw it and kind of put 2 and 2 together. But sometimes as much as it's great storytelling, sometimes it's just fun for you. And
exactly, yeah.
It's you know that there's going to be a handful of people in. I mean, there was 2,000, 2,500 people
Something
at that
like
show.
That. There was a lot of people there.
And if there was 5 people in there that got it, I'd be shocked. But it was fun for me. I absolutely loved doing that show. And if any of them are listening to the people behind Chinlock, I mean, we'd love to come back for another Chinlock event, be it one of the benefit shows or one of the small shows. So I'm sure they're aware of that, but it's they're one of the fun ones to work for.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, that whole crew is awesome.
They truly are.
Can't say enough great things about them, for sure. Definitely so. And I mean, it's cool. I'm glad that you've been able to maybe heal up a little bit and take this time to kind of let's heal
just
up the old body and stuff.
I'm not looking forward to that as much as I'm looking forward to it. Let me preface that.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to. No, here, I'll rephrase it. I'm looking forward to that first match. I'm not looking forward to the day after that first match.
Well, and I'm actually just to the corner of the window here. I see your profile picture on Facebook, and you somewhat recently went to the dojo, correct? And you were able to get in the ring just to kind of. Oh, was that a while ago?
So what that picture is actually is we did a promotional shoot for a company that Cable and I both work for. And it was just a handful of us got together.
Oh, okay.
And then we all individually filmed different segments, kind of just to let the fans know that, we're just as eager for it to come back and we're still there, ready to entertain the fans when things come back. And it was just, I had a moment there when it was just kind of everything was quiet. Everyone was off doing their own thing and the ring was empty. So I was just kind of got in there and just sat there a little relaxed. And other than that, unfortunately, I haven't been in a ring properly in a year now. I think it's like a year and 3 days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And
I miss it. I don't miss the pain of it all at times, but I definitely miss the camaraderie, the fans. I have a few fans that I talk to, and then I have people that started out as fans that I become friends with, such as yourself. But every once in a while, one of the fans will reach out to me, and we can't wait for it to come back. When is it coming? And we're all very much in the same boat.
Yeah.
If we could safely put on a show tomorrow for fans, I would do it. Even if it meant that I had to wrestle in a mask, we would do it if we had to. That's how much we want to get back out there and entertain everyone. And as I'm sure you interview a lot of musicians, they're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We do it because we love to do it. And the people that are making it on TV are making a killing at it. And there's definitely people on the indies that are making a killing at it. But I can tell you, honestly, I don't. I do it because I love it. It costs me money to wrestle, to be quite frankly. To be quite frank, I mixed 2 sentences up there.
Do you speak English?
No, I don't.
Sorry, I saw the opportunity. I had to take it.
You had to. It's a passion for us. It's you have that dream that you'll be able to make a living at it. But just like every musician that's up and coming, there's I saw a joke about musicians that very much sums up wrestlers in the same way. It's, being a musician is packing thousands of dollars worth of gear into a car that's worth hundreds of dollars, spending over $100 in gas to make $50.
Yeah.
And that's if you're lucky. I mean, I generally walk out of most shows having spent more money than I make. When you factor in, gas and travel and your food and, you do all of that and you drive from Toronto to Montreal and back, there are definitely people that are breaking even, making money. Don't get me wrong. But for many of us, we do it because we love it. It's, I could get paid $5 to go out there and wrestle. It's the seeing the reaction from the crowd that to me does it. Now, obviously I'd rather make, thousands of dollars doing it, but
of course, yeah. Everyone wants to be able to make a good living doing their passion, right?
And I think we talked about it the last time we spoke, I started doing this at 34.
Yeah.
I didn't do this with the intention of making a career of it. Mm-hmm. For me, it was something that I saw an opportunity, and it was, I want to live this childhood dream. Pardon me, while I still can. Mm-hmm. And my goal in all of it was one match. That was it. I went through all the training, all the learning, everything to have one match. And when my coach found that out, he was like, why? He's like, why would you spend, all this money, all this time to just have one match? And I said, my plan isn't to stop after one. But if I go out and I have one match and I realize, what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. I can at least look back at it and say, what? I did it. You and I have talked previously when I was younger, I did indie concert promotions. Mm-hmm. My goal was never to become, the next Live Nation no, I just did it because I wanted to. It was, let me try this, try my hand at it so that when I'm older, it's not, I really wish I had been involved in the music industry.
Yeah.
Or, I knew I didn't have the talent to be a musician. I tried. I spent, 10 years off and on trying to learn how to play bass. I couldn't do it. I tried my hand at guitar. I can't do it. I can't sing to save my life. So it was, and I never lived anywhere where I could have drums without being evicted. So I've never tried. But, by putting on the show from a promotional standpoint, from being a promoter, I was able to look around and find smaller bands that, didn't necessarily get a chance locally and give them a spot. And, I did that for a year, and it was time that I genuinely enjoyed, but it was done out of passion. Mm-hmm. And if you become successful at it, great. But if you're doing it simply to become successful, you'll either not become successful because you don't have the passion for it, or you'll get bored with it and walk away once again because you don't have the passion for it. So
it's like anything. If you have a passion for it and you're doing it for the right reasons, it will never be work, right? Like it'll never
very
be,
much so,
and if it starts becoming work, then, hey, that might be time to take a step back too, right? Like that's,
absolutely.
And it's cool that, I've been talking a lot lately about, you shouldn't be afraid of failing at something. You should always attempt things. And like, that's something that, especially now, I'm like, hey, if I want to do something, I'm going to just do it. I'm going to give it a shot. Hi. Like, this whole thing, like, hey, I want to start a podcast. And I just did it. Cause I'm like, hey, I want to do it. And, being able to look back and be like, oh man, like I wish I had tried more to do this or do that, or I wish I even attempted to do this. You know what I mean? Like you can't live your life that way. You gotta just go for it.
No, exactly. And again, I can't remember who were saying any of these quotes. Failure is success training.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that.
Right? It's if the first thing that you ever try, you're super successful at, did you really learn how to be successful?
Yeah. No.
Or were you just lucky? You know, like, yeah, it's great. You may learn as you're going, but you didn't learn. You know, I showed you super briefly, but you know, I've got Batman stuff all around my office. You know, even my Batman hat that I was wearing beforehand. And to quote the Chris Nolan Batmans, you know, when Alfred's talking to Bruce Wayne as a kid, you know, is why do we fall down? So we could learn to pick ourselves back up. It's, you know, that's how you're going to learn, is by making mistakes. And I've done a ton of them in wrestling, as several busted up bones can attest. But even, you know, I think my camera's backwards now, so you won't be able to see it, but I've got a tattoo on my wrist.
That's awesome.
And it's very much that, to bring him back up again, fellow podcaster like yourself, and movie director, etc., Kevin Smith. He had a speech a few years back that he was delivering after he released a movie called Tusk, which bombed horribly.
Yeah, I remember that.
I love it, but it's weird. And he was talking about possibly getting out of the movie industry. And one of the discussions that he had, he's always been an advocate of, it costs nothing to support an artist.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, okay, you buy our CD or this or that, but even just to give them support and help them, you know, motivationally help them to get to what they want to do, costs you nothing. And he goes on about, surround yourself with people that say, why not? There are plenty of people in the world that say, why?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're like, oh, I want to be a podcaster, or I want to be a wrestler, or in his case, I want to be a director, there are a million people that'll say, why? Why would you want to do that? But if you surround yourself with people that say, why not? You might not be successful at it, but you'll try. Mm-hmm. You'll have more life experiences, because when something came up, you were like, yeah, why not? Now he prefaces that with, you know, obviously, if, you know, the thing that you want to do is going around and murdering a bunch of people, well, don't do that.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So don't do that.
Not?
But, you know, if it's something creative or artsy, or, you know, you want to learn to knit, you know, or, you know, I want to buy another Batman figurine. It's, you know, why not? It doesn't hurt anybody. It comes back to it, you know, it costs nothing to support an artist. Yeah. And it's, you know, listen to a friend's podcast, or, you know, I've given away so many free tickets to wrestling shows. Come on out and see it. You might like it, you know, and it costs me nothing at the end of the day, you know, $10 here, have a ticket. Exactly. But it gets them out, and they get to experience something new, you know, something that, to the point that you mentioned before, just go in and enjoy it. Just let it be what it is. Don't go in with any preconceived notions, and see. I now have friends that are fans because of that. They come out and they watch wrestling now. They don't watch it on TV, but they'll come to shows that I'm at, and they're like, it's not just that they enjoy my match. They're like, I'm enjoying the show. It's entertaining. It's something different to do on a Saturday night, rather than just go to the movies or go to the bar. And most wrestling venues have a bar, people. So it's like you can have a drink and entertainment at the same time. So, and some of us wrestlers, despite what you might see here, some of us are, you know, good to look at as well. There are some good looking wrestlers.
Oh, you're a head. Look at that beard. You're a handsome man. Come on.
Stop it. See, even my fiance will say it's the beard that does it. You get rid of this beard, it's something scary under there. Believe me, people. You should, as much as you should fear the beard, you should fear the lack of beard, because it gets scary. It gets scary under there.
I hear you. Obviously, mine's not the same, but yeah, no, I hear you. I shave this thing off, I become a different human being. I get it.
It truly is. The last time I got rid of my beard was 9 years ago for Movember. I had a short beard around your length at the time. It was mostly goatee with like short beard on the side. And I raised like $800 or something for Movember, mostly between a bidding war between my mom and my sister. And I went into the bathroom, shaved my beard off, walked out, and my dog started growling at me. just like hunkered down and just, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, Shenzi, come here. And like I had to like walk over, and she was just hunkered down further, growling until I got close enough that she smelled me. And then it was just, what's going on here? And it took 2 or 3 days before she would approach me properly. So I literally become a completely different person. And anyone that I've shown that picture to, I'll send it to you if you promise that it doesn't get aired anywhere with this podcast. Everyone that says it. No, I'm just kidding. That picture is 8 years old now, and I look older in that picture than I do now.
Because I've never seen you without the beard at all. Just the long beard. So I'm like,
most people haven't. The picture's on my Facebook. So okay. I'll just say that it's in on my personal Facebook, not my wrestling Facebook. So those of you who know my real name, you can find it. It's in there somewhere. But yeah, it's not something that I ever plan on doing again. Let's just put it that way. I'll take whatever people want to pay me to shave it off, and I'll just donate it myself to Movember and prostate cancer research and keep the beard.
Yeah, I got to keep the beard going. Got to keep her growing. It's looking great, so got to keep her going, man.
Yeah, and I mean, this not having to go into the office for a year. Yes. I mean, working remotely from home, I don't have to worry about trimming it or anything like that. So
just got to let her grow. That's it.
Pretty much. I just have to make sure that I keep the mustache somewhat trimmed so the fiance doesn't get too upset. But
that's awesome, man. Well, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk with you. I'm glad we were able to make this happen and get into some cool, deep talk. It was fun considering the last time that we saw Jon Cayen on the Hotter Show. It ended a lot differently.
It definitely did. And it's been a pleasure on my part. And I look forward to, doing this again sometime. And you'll have to have Kable on here on his own one of these days, so I'm not talking over him constantly.
It would be fun, and I mean, I can't wait for that first time I'm able to see you guys again, man. I mean, it's going to be a big hug, and we're going to have a beer. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. I look forward to it, sir.
All right. Thanks, Jon.
Have a good one.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening to The Hotter Show right now. Are you in a band? Maybe you're a business owner of some kind, a performer, maybe a pro wrestler, an event promoter, an athlete, or maybe you're just an everyday person who needs some photo editing done. You need a great graphic design guy, and have I ever got the hookup for you? My man and close personal friend, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Whether you need logos, t-shirts, stickers, tickets, business cards, banners, menu, brochures, flyers, posters, Facebook banner videos, door hangers, photo editing and restoration, print ads, lyric video editing, signs, notepads, window clings, letterhead, bookmarks, programs, magnets, greeting cards, calendars, rack cards, invitations, envelopes, pens. Jason will work with you to develop a style that is unique to you and that tells everybody just how special your business, event, or you personally are, and you will stand out from the crowd. On top of the fact that he does offer free delivery between Cobourg, Ontario and Kingston, Ontario, message him today right now for a free quote. That's right, a free quote. Tell him about your idea. You got something outside the box, he will make it happen. With great rates and service, you cannot go wrong. I've used Jason literally for everything over the past 3.5 years, and I cannot say enough good things about the man himself and his work. So contact him today on the web at jaybirddigitalarts.com or on social media under Jaybird Digital Arts. That's Jaybird digitalarts.com. You can also email him at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And always keep in mind that his business is successful when your business looks good. All right, gang, I hope that you enjoyed my chat with Jon Cayen as much as I did. It was great getting to chat with Jon out of character, which is something that, I mean, obviously, Jon's also my friend, so, we talk all the time, but I just love talking wrestling with Jon. It's always a blast. I really, truly do love wrestling, and it's not something I get to talk about a lot on the podcast, so anytime I do, it is always a blast. And we didn't really dive into his music stuff at all either. We meant to, and we got talking about wrestling and never got to the music stuff. But I'll have to have Jon on again sometime to talk a little bit more about his days, promoting shows and running shows and stuff like that. It's really fun. So Jon, thank you very much again, my man, for coming on. And of course, big shouts to Kable as well. One half of Cayen Kable and Fear the Beard. Big shout outs to him. Appreciate you guys and all that you do for me. And I appreciate you. You, there, right there. I'm pointing at you right now. You. I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for not only tuning into this episode of The Hotter Show, but still listening or watching right now. Seriously, you are the best. Gonna give you the patented video fist bump. Boom. And of course, the exclusive to The Hotter Show audio fist bump. Oh yeah, that's how we roll here on The Hotter Show. And of course, before I get out of here, I want to as well give a humongous shout out to my Patreon supporters, my hotheads. Of course, my man, Mr. Scotty D. Scotty, thanks so very much for all of your support over the years, my man. You know how much it means to me, and you know how much I love you, buddy. Scotty's actually been a long-time friend of mine. I've been a supporter of this podcast pretty much from day one. So big shout out to Scotty. Thank you so very much, my man. You know how much I appreciate it. And as well as a big shout out to my man Will from Rolls Royce. If you do not know Rolls Royce, where have you been, man? Rolls Royce are literally one of the premier punk rock bands in the entire world. You got to go check them out right now. Rolls Royce, RAWLS. Royce, ROYCE. Rolls Royce. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, or on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your music. They got some great music. If you're into punk rock you can sing along to with really hooky choruses and things of that nature. You will love Rolls Royce, so go check them out. Especially, their EP and so on is still so great. I love that EP. I listen to that EP all the time. Their latest EP as well, Larold, is really, really badass as well. But I'm very partial to And So On because I think that was my introduction to them. But either way, big shout out to Rolls Royce. Thank you so very much, Will, for being a patron. You know how much I appreciate it. And if you want to get personalized shout outs like that at the end of every episode of The Hotter Show without fail, because I don't forget my patrons anymore. It doesn't happen no more. As well as some exclusive content, and you want to help out the show continue to grow, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/The Hotter Show. Join the Patreon. It costs you $1 a month. And that seriously helps this show grow. I'm looking to get $30 a month. That would be humongous for me. That would be basically life-changing for me at this point. I would use that money immediately to pay for a certain program that I want to start using, but just cannot afford at the moment with a little extra help. So if you want to help out The Hotter Show and help the show continue to grow and be better, have better video, that's the main reason I want this program that I need, so I can make my video editing better and things of that nature. Check out the Patreon. But either way, even if you don't, I just appreciate you guys listening and watching, especially if you still are. Thank you so much. You're seriously the best. I would give you a hug if I could right now, but I can't. I'll give you a virtual hug. Yeah, virtual hug, whatever. We're with it. And that's going to do it for me here today. Thank you guys so very much again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on The Hotter Show. Take it easy, guys.